Yeah, it's coming from the door.
Hey, everybody, it's Dave here. Darren over there. And he's not in his normal Yellow Knife Canada today. So that's why we got to deal with the light issues that are coming in that way. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for to talk about what's wrong with Kirk Cousins. Is there anything wrong with Kirk Cousins? Boy, did it fire up some folks on the internet. Twitter, Facebook, Daily Norseman, they're all riled up that I would dare ask the question, what's wrong with Kirk Cousins? Is he a different player under Kevin O'Connell? Then we'll get into our quick hit segments. We've got a couple of them this week. Both you've probably heard about it, but we want to emphasize that with Cine and Dalvin Tomlinson. Then we'll finish up the show with the preview, the in-depth look at Minnesota Vikings hosting the Chicago Bears. Next on Two Old Bloggers. Climb in the Pocket, Daily Norseman, and Lake Monster Brewing presents Two Old Bloggers. Hey everybody, it's Dave here, Darren over there. How you doing today, Darren, and why aren't you in Yellowknife?
Went down to Alberta, David. It's a Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, a whole month and a bit more earlier than U.S. Thanksgiving, and down to see family and in-laws in northern Alberta for the weekend. So doing it remotely in a camper. Sorry for all the lighting
camper,
issues.
No less.
Yeah, in a camper.
Well, looks like a good
camper by a house.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Afternoon, Lauren.
Hey, Lauren. Thanks for joining along. I know it's where everybody's knee deep into like college football afternoon games right now. So
they got the Red River Showdown here, which has got everybody in Austin all tied in a tizzy as they play Oklahoma up in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl.
They must be quite pleased with how the game's going so far.
But
pitching a shutout the last I saw.
Yeah, well, that's because Oklahoma isn't doing as well as buddy of ours, Ryan Ortega, would hope this season, but hey, it is what it is. Now, last week, we teased what's wrong with Justin Jefferson, right? And we pointed out that he had some tells. Darius Slay had pointed out he has some tells. He needed to fix that. This week, we're going along with the same thing, what's wrong with Kirk Cousins. But rather than tease it and wait it till the very end of the show, we're going to talk about it relatively in the beginning. And Ty, nothing's wrong with 3-1. I love 3-1. I wish it was 4-0. That would have been better. But 3-1, there's nothing wrong with 3-1. But what we're going to get into on this is not just that we're 3-1. And that is a good thing, people. I am not discounting that one little bit. We want to be 3-1. We'd prefer to be 4-0, but 3-1 will work. So, but the topic is what's wrong with Kirk Cousins, because there is something new to this season that we haven't seen before. And we've seen some production drops from Kirk Cousins. We've seen some good things. Hey, we get into the two games, fourth quarter comebacks, but we've seen some production drops. And on Twitter, got into it with, well, it's a new scheme, a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator. But Kirk Cousins has dealt with that for the last 5 years. He was signed by the Vikings in 2008. came to the Vikings, he had a great season stats wise. His production was up with a new team, a new head coach, a new OC. Same sort of circumstances, but this year is different. His production, and we'll get into it, is down, but yet we're winning more. That's a good thing. Now on to theme one. Kirk Cousins himself.
Yes, David, you already got into it a bit there. You're again, Vikings are 3-1. That's great.
Mhm.
First in the NFC North, that's great. But I guess what I'm bringing up, what I wanted to talk about is like how much is Kirk Cousins responsible for us being 3-1? To a large degree, or to some degree, he is responsible for it and has been helpful. You
Mhm.
mentioned the two fourth quarter comebacks that he's led, and that's something that I think that Cousins isn't in some circles is probably isn't getting enough credit for the past year and a bit because last year he did a lot of that as well. He kind of went against the old Kirk
He
Cousins
yes.
can't, pull off a late game, come from behind, win when we need it. He did that a lot last year. The problem was, as we know, the defense couldn't hold up its end of the bargain and blew the games that he brought us
In
back
those
and
last
had us
few
in a
minutes. Hmm.
yeah, and had us in a position to win. He's done that again twice this year. The season opener wasn't required. The next game against Philly, we didn't play very well. Cousins didn't play very well. We didn't get a chance to be in a position. But this year, so he's got those two fourth quarter victory comeback. He's led to. He's also did very well in 2021 with that. You have to bring that up and acknowledge that Kirk Cousins is maybe he's kind of turning into a bit of a clutch quarterback in a way, if such a thing exists. But uh, they, but with when Kevin O'Connell was named head coach, David, the one of the things
Hmm.
that maybe like Viking fans were expecting or hoping was that okay, he is working with Kevin O'Connell is here. He's bringing in an offensive system, the Sean McVay influenced offensive system, and can he coax Kirk Cousins to play at a higher level than he has so far in his career? And right now, in 4 games, we have not seen that effect yet. Uh, Kirk's QBR rating is at 46.2. That's 20th in the league. His passer rating, the traditional passer rating, is also 20th in the league. We all got it up there. 12th in passing yards, 20th in completion percentage, which is very, very low for Kirk Cousins compared to what he's done in his previous 4 seasons with the Vikings. 10th in TD passes. He's tied with 6 other QBs for sixth in interceptions with 4. And as football fans know, being up high in the interceptions
It's bad.
amongst the league QBs is not a good thing. DVOA. DVOA is 17th overall. Pro Football Focus's offensive grade 72.9, down there again 11th overall. So a lot of those stats are telling us that so far this year in 4 games, small sample size still, but Kirk Cousins has been, a bit above average or about an average quarterback through 4 games. That is not what we were expecting. Again, with Kevin O'Connell coming in, the offensive mind, the new system that was going to unlock Kirk Cousins' quarterback powers. We aren't seeing that. To be fair, again, David, is that like you said, it's a new system. He's got a new coaching staff. The Vikings, as an offense as a whole, haven't really been clicking like we feel that they should. And O'Connell and Kirk Cousins have both said themselves that we're not where we need to be. There's a lot of work to do. So overall, the offense, not just Kirk Cousins, but the whole offense has not been functioning. I think hasn't been clicking like we expect them to. But um, I feel that they need to be doing that. And David, I think you're going to jump in here with this
I
graphic
am.
and talk a bit about that as well.
Well, my question is, are we starting to see the
Go
beginning of
to
a
it.
Kirk Cousins decline? right? I went back and I looked at some analytics. This comes from Advanced Football Analytics, and it was done, believe it or not, the research was done in 2008. Okay? Now, you can
Mm-hmm.
take since then, people have been spoiled by the mushroom eating Aaron Rodgers or whatever he's doing, and the avocado eating Tom Brady to extend life and have good playoff careers. But before that, the normal range of a starting quarterback to decline, and this is measured by approximate yards per play, you can see the curve, right? They are at their peak around that 28, 29, 30-year mark, and then they start to go down. We all know Kirk Cousins, 34 years old, right? Are we starting? My question is, are we starting to see a decline in him? And people are asking, well, Dave, you're using yards per attempt. Well, his ADOT from PFF is what I sent you earlier, is down this year. That's the yards per throw. The distance of throw is way down this year, right? It's come up in the last game, but it's still below his average. His average is 8.8. Last game was 8.7, highest of the season. He's been in the sixes, right? And I think he was in the five for one of those games. My question is he declining? We've seen it before. It is unusual for a quarterback to stay healthy and strong and be able to do what he does late in his career. There are exceptions. There are late bloomers that we know of, right? That have won Super Bowls. There are obviously Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers that are doing it into their 40s, which is amazing. But the average, looking at the league, over the history of the league, starts to decline. Once you get over that 30 hump, even for quarterbacks, they start to decline a little bit. My question is, are we seeing it? We are definitely seeing it with this guy, right?
Oh yeah.
And he's younger than Kirk Cousins, believe it or not. Russell
Not
Wilson's
by much.
not by much, but he's half
Only
a
a
year
year.
younger than Kirk Cousins. And you watch that game on Thursday night or any of the ones prior this season, he looks bad, right? He doesn't look like he has it anymore. Well, that fits into the normal human body. Quarterback in the NFL takes abuse, right? Throws a lot, all that, run, in case of Russell, the ability to run, and they go out. If I remember correctly, it was Dan Marino went out about mid 30s as well, right? That's a normal deal. Kirk Cousins, like I said, is 34. We may be seeing a decline in his physical skills. Now, can he still throw a beautiful long ball? Absolutely. Can he still hit just about every throw in the yard? Absolutely. But he's missed on some. He sailed them. He hasn't thrown them short, like take Donovan McNabb for another one that reached that mid 30s range, and then he was just torpedoing footballs all day long. Right? It's something I want to point out that if this continues, we need to keep watching, because it could be that it is the start of that he's sliding down that hill. We won't know. Now, the good thing about Kirk Cousins so far is the fact he has come back. He has done what it takes to win. That first drive, even for the last few years, has been a thing of beauty, right? And then he goes down into whatever slump. It's like a roller coaster. He goes up, we get to the top, it's great, down we go. And then the rest of the game, we're fighting to get back up. And in the last two games, he's come back up and he's got us to win. The question is, can he keep that up? Which I think he can. I think that comes partially with maturity. What he's seen, all the miles, all the reps, that's getting better, because we need that to win. Yes. But But my question is, does the physical decline, are we starting to see that? And I'm just pointing it out for folks to watch. We get hey, you guys always complained that we brought up all those beautiful stats. And then now that he's not making those stats, you're complaining. But we're winning. And I always said, yeah, but QB wins was a deal. And you were telling me, no, it's a team stat. No, a lot of it is the QB. And I do like the fact that he is winning. We need to win. That's the good deal. But I just want to keep you an eye on, is he declining? We used to say, hey, and when that report came out, they were debating whether Tom Brady was washed at that point. And we know Aaron Rodgers was debated whether he was washed. And they drafted Jordan Love. And then Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers went on to win MVP. It's those sort of things makes you think and go, Now, we'll continue. We watched Kirk Cousins do a little check down stuff in Philly, and we got smoked in Philly. However, we had opportunities to make that game. But can we continue from there?
Well, going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, David, is that I feel that Kirk hasn't looked comfortable in the offense yet. I don't think very few of the Vikings have, other than Justin Jefferson, and then he had a 2-game stretch where he was having his problems too. So I think it makes sense to me that as the season goes on and the whole offense gets used to its better execution of what they're doing, better idea of what they're doing. And like you said, because the starters didn't play at all during the preseason, other than Ed Ingram, the first few games were really their preseason in a lot of ways. Only was the regular season and it mattered. So I do have hopes that the offense will get better, execution will be better. The talent is there. I think I haven't seen anything obvious physically from Kirk that suggests that he's declining, but the decline could be gradual and not really evident to the naked eye in a lot of cases too. I think he has missed on some easy throws in quotation marks that he usually makes in his sleep, at least what I've seen him make in his sleep in the past 4 years. But this isn't so much about I think the concern for me right now with Kirk's level of play isn't that he's been terrible. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that when we get if you look at the Vikings schedule this year, the way things are playing out right now, it's not that tough of a schedule. But we've
got
got a
like
2-game stretch there where we play the Bills. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but we got a 2-game stretch where we got the Bills on the road, and then we play the Cowboys at home. And the Cowboys have got some flaws too, but they might have Dak Prescott back by then. But anyway,
not that Cooper
those 2
Rush
games
isn't begging
against 2 teams that
winning.
No, that's right. But those are 2 games where I think the opponents are pretty tough, and you've got some of the other games. Those games, and in the playoffs, assuming the Vikings make the playoffs, you're gonna have to beat teams like San Francisco. Looks like Philly, the Rams, Tampa Bay, and I think in those games against better teams with better defenses, you need Kirk Cousins to be playing at a higher level than he's playing right now if the Vikings are going to stick in those games and win them. And I think right now, with the way he's playing, where it's uneven, he'll have a good drive and then he'll have 3 drives where he doesn't look good. That's just not going to be good enough to get to the Super Bowl or even the NFC Championship game. And really, that's what we want to see. And that's what we're kind of expecting to see now that, again, he's in an offense that's he's got a coach who likes him, that he can work with, and he's in an offense that should be catering to his strengths and that should be functioning at a higher level than what we've seen the previous 2 years. And the whole thing about how you got a nice graphic up there. The whole thing about how Kevin O'Connell coming over was going to somehow magically, turn Kirk Cousins into a Superman version of himself when he's had a very consistent track record of stats throughout his 7 seasons as a starter that just hasn't materialized yet. And I wonder if it will materialize yet. But again, He's not comfortable in the system yet. I feel that there is still hope that he can play at a higher level than he's playing now, and I think he has to get us where we need to be. But it's kind of a wait and see moment right now. But we haven't seen the huge jump, we haven't seen a jump in his level of play that maybe we
We
were hoping to
expected.
see. I don't know if we
Yeah.
were all expecting to see it, but we were hoping to see it, and we haven't seen it yet. And I think we need that, like I said a few minutes ago, if we're going to beat a team like the 49ers on the road in an NFC championship game with the kind of defense that they have. You need a quarterback who's going to make those big time plays consistently and not get scared and revert to check down Kirk. That kind of quarterback is going to lead to a 20-point loss against the 49ers in a playoff game. We
Hmm.
need something better than that. And right now, we haven't been seeing it yet.
Well, and I'm hoping it is just all this transition, learning the new stuff, learning how we've already started to see how they're building on some of their plays, how things are fitting in. And even Kirk
Yep.
himself has admitted, I made the wrong read here. I should have gone this way, or I should have done that, or look for this, or look for that. And he's being open about it, which is nice and refreshing because Kirk a lot of times wasn't. And as long as they keep improving, that is the big deal. Um, Thomas, winning ball games is what it is all about. I agree. It's winning. That's some of the heartburn we had over the last few years. It's about winning. But what we're talking about is there's a noticeable decline in what we've seen in the first 4 games. Is that a matter of just transitioning, learning the new stuff, and can we expect him to step up to his 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, yada yada, or should we expect the, like you said, the intermediate stuff where he comes in, starts great, goes down, for a few for a few plays, and then gets good, and he does the roller coaster thing we're all used to. It's because there's a lot of people, a lot of young people this last week, they're talking about heart attacks. I want to see, and it was almost implied that under this new O'Connell pass heavy or offense, that we'd see more production. I'm hoping this is just, that learning curve and they get over it and we do see that. I think Kirk can do that. And take that, throw in the comeback ability, the clutch ability that he's suddenly grown a pair. We can go a long way, but we've got to see it. What I'm saying is, we're seeing things that are throwing up warning signs. And we just want to keep watching. But hopefully, it
I
all
think
works
that
out for the great, and we win 13 plus games, win the NFC, get the bye, go on to the Super Bowl, and by the time we reach those teams that we talked about, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Rams, 49ers, not that I think the Rams are going to be there, they're stumbling this year, but the 49ers, and the playoffs, that we're cooking on all cylinders and we can keep up with them. And it's not like week 2 against Philadelphia where the whole team stumbled, both on offense and on defense. That's
And I
for
can
sure.
just as a final thought, David, I can understand what Thomas is getting at there and saying, how, again, you're 3-1. What's the big deal? Why are you concerned? And again, 3-1 is great. I don't think I'm whining, but I'm just saying that I think that the level of play that the offense and Kirk are exhibiting right now is not going to be good enough to get us those wins when we play the real good teams in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
You need something better than what we're seeing now, and so far we haven't seen it. We may see it. I hope we see it, but right now the O'Connell factor has not shown up, and I don't think that maybe it like people, a lot of fans were like, we want to see this starting from the get go, like from game
Mm-hmm.
one, not game 8. game
Right.
one.
Game one.
Right? Like you had all off season and training camp and to work on these things. So why aren't you executing to the best of your ability now? Or is this offense just going to be like this the whole year? Still an open question, I think.
Mhm. And Thomas, I'm not whining. I'm just pointing out that production is down. That's all. That's a true statement. Yes, we're winning. That's great. I love it. I want to keep that going. So, on to theme 2. Yes, Lauren, I agree with you. Thank you. Theme 2, we are going into our quick hitters. First one was Lewis Cine. Unfortunately, we all watched him go off on the cart last week.
Never a good sign. And if you got to watch the stuff on YouTube, hey, Niner Sickness Podcast. We don't play the Niners this week, but happy to
Not
have
this
you
week,
along.
Beto,
Um,
but probably in the
yeah,
playoffs. We just
maybe
talked about that.
probably later. But yeah, if anybody got to see the YouTube clips of the injury later on, you could see that Lewis Cine suffered a pretty gruesome broken leg injury last Sunday against the Saints.
I saw a couple pictures
Like
of it. I didn't
really
even want to go
bad.
to the YouTube clips. It was the
Yeah,
leg is not intended to bend in that direction at that many degrees at that location on his leg. Trust me, you don't want to see it.
yeah, I think that you summed it up quite nicely, David. So just take our word for it. It was gruesome, and you know that's the ending of a very that ends that scene's done for the year, obviously, and it's a rookie year for him that never really got off the ground. David, unfortunately, he got picked last pick in the first round. The Vikings traded down to get him, and with Detroit. Um, but it was even they traded him and he was from that great Georgia defense, a
Mm-hmm.
key player in that great historic University of Georgia defense that won the national championship last year. The expectation was from the get-go that he would be the starter opposite Harrison Smith, but he couldn't beat out Cameron Bynum in the training camp or during preseason. Ended up that he missed the first game due to a knee injury, and in 2+ games he only played 2 defensive snaps. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
he would have got more last game because he was in early in the game for 1 snap, but that 2 defensive snaps in 2+ games, that's what we ended up getting for Lewis Cine. So a disappointing rookie year for him. But
We expected a
again,
lot of
we've
three
learned since
safety
then, of
looks
course,
with
that he
him
had a
this year.
compound fracture. Yeah, 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 and that didn't come to pass early in the season, and I don't know if Ed Donatel was planning on working more of that into the Vikings' defensive packages, but we hadn't seen it yet. But compound fracture, David. I'm not a doctor, but I did look it up, and that means that where the break occurred, there was the breaking of the skin, or so the bone went through the skin. That's a very, very serious break. Alex Smith, the guy pictured here, had a similar injury. I think his was, again, not a doctor, but I think his was even worse than Steen's.
Mm-hmm.
He almost had his leg amputated, I believe,
Right.
and but he managed to come back and play. But with a compound fracture, that does bring up the discussion of like Lewis Cine. What does we know this year is done, but what does that mean for him next year and for his NFL career, because it's a type of injury that can be career threatening. Today, the medical technology and the rehabilitation that's the way it's advanced, David. It seems like athletes can come back from almost any injury that they
Mm-hmm.
suffer, no matter how severe. And Alex Smith did make it back from his compound fracture and played, but he was never the same when he came back. And and then he retired quickly after a year anyway. I think he came back to prove he could do it. But so question is, what is Lewis Cine's future? Is his future here in doubt? And for him to
Well.
suffer a compound fracture, I think it's a big deal anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
um, but for Cine, he's got he's a safety. he's a guy that's got to depend on his legs to make a living in the NFL. And if the compound fracture impacts his agility, his mobility, his speed, that could be something that really impacts his NFL career in the future.
Well, I have a picture of Matt
And
Daniels
and
there.
so that's a question for me.
I have a picture of
Yes.
Matt Daniels. Matt Daniels in his press conference reiterated that he had the exact same injury, where he had a compound fracture of his lower tib and fib, and it took him out for over a year. He did come back. He only played, I think, one season after that, but he did get back into the game, and he played before, and he had a relatively short career, but that he did and he can come back. And he had called Lewis and said, "Hey, guy, I'm there for you. One, I'm your coach, but two, I've had the exact same injury. So you can recover." I think that's good. I think the best part of that is that he and Lewis Matt and Lewis, they are now bonded with not only, Lewis Cine playing great on special teams, but that they're going through the same thing. I love the fact that Lewis Cine and Matt Daniels have had that sort of experience together and then go on. I do believe he can pull him through all those moments of, hey, is my career over? Blah blah, and the down moments that come with such an injury.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to it. And Lewis Cine was supposed to fly back today. I have not seen or heard whether he has landed. He was coming on a what we used to call medevac type airplane. It's specifically designed for those that have some sort of injury or ailment and need medical attention as they fly back. The Vikings in the NFL have taken very, very good care of him. He was taken to a private, not government run hospital in England. It was supposedly the best hospital, absolutely trauma center, uh, with orthopedic surgeons and such to take care of him. He's supposedly received all that. He is going to fly back today, and at least a chunk of the team's going to meet him when he lands. So it's a good thing. But I bet one of the first guys is right there, Matt Daniels, because he's gone through this. And I think having a buddy in recovery that's been through it is going to be huge for him. So,
I agree,
Ty
David.
asked,
Yes.
what was the expectation from Scene?
Was
You
from
know,
who exactly? Well, I read several guys in the media, not that they that
mhm,
like whether it was Kevin Seifert, Will Ragatz from Sports Illustrated, and others saying that they expect Scene was expected to draft people following the draft, but expecting Scene would be the starter. And why
mhm,
wouldn't you? He's your number one pick. Will Bynum, the guy that he's competing against, was a fourth round pick last year, and was a guy that was pressed into service for 2 games, but probably wouldn't have saw the field very much if not for injuries. So that was what the expectation was. I think if your first round draft pick, you pick a guy in the first round, you're expecting him to start. Like
mhm,
otherwise, you don't pick him there. That's
right?
where your impact players are. So that's where the expectation was coming from, not just from me, but from others who follow the Vikings, write about them. Now, were the coaches expecting that? I didn't hear anybody publicly declare him as a starter when they drafted him, but coaches wouldn't be saying that most of the time anyway, particularly prior to training camp, because that gets. Then you've created, you're on the record
Mhm,
saying that this guy's a starter, and you haven't even really started the competition yet. That's not something coaches usually plan on doing, is tipping their hand
right.
about who's going to start and eliminating a competition before it even happens.
Mhm. So that brings us to our next quick hitter, Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yes, DT, David.
Mhm,
We know that the Vikings defense has given up a lot of yards, both this season. They haven't given up a ton of points yet, but they've given up a lot of yards. They've been kind of infuriating for fans who are expecting a stouter
better.
defense. We haven't seen that yet, but you can't blame Dalvin Tomlinson for that. I don't think, David, because he is by all accounts having an excellent season so far, and I wanted to highlight him. When in the off season, I think a lot of the talk, excuse me, from myself, from you, from other people who were following the Vikings, was what was the impact Zadarius Smith was going to have. Harrison Phillips? What was his impact going to be on this new 3-4 defense? A healthy Danielle Hunter. Well, how is he
Hmm.
going to be impact that whole thing? Didn't hear a whole lot of talk about Dalvin Tomlinson, but through 4 games, he seems to, like, the eye test is, I'm seeing a guy who's consistently creating a lot of pressure, particularly on pass situations. He seems to every game he seems to make like a key play. Last week, the strip sack
Or
of Andy
more.
Dalton.
Hmm.
Or more. Week one, he recovered, had the awareness to see the ball was on the ground when Jordan Hicks sacked and strip sacked Aaron Rodgers, and he recovered that fumble at a key time. And if you don't believe me, well, Pro Football Focus has his defensive rating at 80.5, which is the best rating
That's elite.
overall. That's the best rating on the, like, offense or defense right now that they have on the entire Vikings team. He's got the highest rating. So Dalvin Tomlinson has really been, really been kicking well. And again, he's on top of that. You've got he's also ranked as one of the top defensive linemen, David, in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus, for defensive linemen who've played at least 50% of their defensive snaps so far. And he's ranked eighth out of 68 defensive linemen in that
Wow.
category. That's ahead of bigger names like Grady Jarrett, Fletcher Cox, Kenny Clark, and Cam Hayward. So, his defensive grades, or his run defense grades, aren't as high as the pass rush right now. But overall, Dalvin Tomlinson, number 94, after a pretty middling, I would say, first season with the Vikings last year, 2021, where he didn't
Well, he
really seem
moved.
to.
He
Yeah,
played some at the three technique, and then he
yeah.
moved and played some at the nose. But I like the way he's settling in that 5-3-5 technique role. And if you watch the film, watch him take guards and tackles and just move it up and just clog and cause all sorts of havoc. He is literally having the best season of his career, and it's wonderful to see.
It is wonderful to see, and we're
Hey,
hoping
G
that
Mac.
GMAC, right now what we need is for other guys to on the Vikings defense, the starters, to play like Dalvin Tomlinson is.
Mm-hmm. Ty, you say media mercenaries had expectations throughout the history of the NFL. First round draft choices are expected to start. That's why they're drafted in the first round. You don't draft first rounders to sit. Back in the day, you might do that with a quarterback, but they don't even do that anymore. It's just CBS has a whole chart. I've got it somewhere where a draft choice, and it flows with the metrics of where you pick somebody, where what's expected of them, right? You don't expect somebody picked on day 3 to be a starter. You do expect somebody picked on day 1 in that first round to be a starter and an impact player on your team. That day 3 guy may develop into that eventually, but they're not even expected to. You're lucky if you get them in special teams, right? Your day 2 guys are your may develop it. You expect to develop into a starter, but there's a reason why they pick them that high, and it is expected that way, and it's been that way
And it,
since the draft has been around, whether it be in the present form or when you go back even further and it was 12 rounds.
and it wasn't like we exactly had like the position opposite Hitman was.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like we had another all pro there. We had Cam Bynum there.
Right.
No, he's a guy that showed promise in his rookie year, but he's not a guy that you're like, oh yeah, he's a lock as a starter. We
Right.
weren't even sure, even after 2 encouraging games last year, what we had with Bynum. And I felt pretty confident that that Cine would be able to take him to beat him out, but he did not. Not to say he wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. And I'm certainly we're both. I think everybody's expecting he'll be a key part of the Vikings defense in future years, starting next year, especially with Hitman being 33. But to say that your first rounders are like you shouldn't expect them to start, I would say that's
That's wrong.
bogus.
That's wrong.
That's why you pick them there.
Yep. All right. Now on to from one good thing to another. Lake Monster Brewing, and I was wondering if you brought your hat with you. Um,
I didn't. No, no.
uh, Derek got his care package this week, and he's enjoying it. There's first things first. Lake Monster Brewing has partnered with Boundary Waters Wilderness to create a Legend of the BWCA Monster Contest. And you ask, Dave, what is this? What is this? You got to write a story about a monster, right? Some sort of tale, weird experiences, eyewitnesses accounts. You know, was it Bigfoot? Was it not Bigfoot? Did you see Nellie in Loch Ness when you were visiting Scotland? Something like that. Or did you find a monster in the middle of Leech Lake, the largest leech you've ever seen, 12-foot tall, willing to suck blood out of your fishing buddy like there was nothing there? If you know that, write it down in 100 to 700 words describing it. Submit it on Lake Monster. Go to Lake Monster Brewery website. They have all the rules and regulations. But you know what's best about that? There's multiple winners. You can win free beer. We all love free beer, right? And you know what the number one winner gets? Beer for a year, baby.
Who?
That makes me want to write it. The only stipulation is you've got to go to the store, go to the brewery to pick it up. Well, I'm obviously in Austin, Texas. I can't drive over the river to St. Paul and pick up my case of beer or equivalent a month, or I'd be making the greatest story you've ever seen to compete for that. But those of you that live in that area that are within driving distance and can get to the brewery in St. Paul, and it's in, if you need the address, it's in our rollout. By all means, do it. Get that greatest story of that weird monster, that strange things, that stuff that happened and go bump in the night, right? Because it's fun. And you could win a year's supply of Lake Monster Brew. Hey, God, that sounds almost like heaven to me. So,
Yep.
if you have the chance and you have the writing ability, by all means, give it a shot. Like I said, all the details are on Lake Monster Brewing website, and go check it out. It would be absolutely great. Now, what's on tap this week? You have two new ones on tap. You have Black Lotus. Remember, Golden Lotus was on tap before. Now we have Black Lotus, 7.9. Nice double IPA. Looks great. For you sour folks, we've gone from that, what was it? A different fruit sour to now a blackberry sour. That sounds outstanding. I bet it's in the dark color as well. Um, oh, the other one is right up there. It's pomegranate hibiscus. Um, Lunatic Fresh Hops is there, and I know Darren got that. He has not tried it yet, but I'm anxious to hear what he thinks about it. I'm curious on that one. The ones he's tried so far, I've already drank, and I know are outstanding. Down in the pints, they've got their regulars, Como Claw, Empty Rowboat, Last Fathom Tangerine, Hard Seltzer, and CBD seltzer that for those that are drinking non-alcoholic. And you don't see the Oompa music. The Oktoberfest is sold out. You've drank it all. Good for you guys. I love it. Now, of that, you did try the Empty Rowboat. Did you not, Darren?
I did, David, and I want to thank you and Lake Monster Brewing and Mr.
Matt
Lang
Lang.
for sending me the or arranging to have the care package, which arrived yesterday. Beer, a Lake Monster toque, beer cozy, as well as a hat, which I'm not wearing, unfortunately. But yeah, I got the pomegranate hibiscus sour got sent to me. Lunatic fresh hop got sent to me. Como Claw Pilsner, and I drank Empty Rowboat last night, which was awesome. And then I had the Depth Charge Juicy IPA after
Mm-hmm.
that. That was
That's one of
also
my
awesome.
favorites. Yeah.
That was also awesome. And yeah, so far both of those excellent beers. Can't wait to get into the rest when I get back to Yellowknife. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you, Miss Matt Lang and David for arranging
That's
that
Matt
for
Lang.
me.
It's not me. But
Much appreciated.
all right. And also, don't forget the Monster Bash on the 29th. It starts at noon, goes to 11 p.m. 6 live bands. During that time, you have also 8 one-of-a-kind specialty beers. They're going to come out of their cask caves. And you have, along with the hot apple cider, which Tyler loves so much, and more. On the 29th, it's only $9. Sign up, drink all day, enjoy the festivities. It would be a blast. The game is until the 30th. So it's a perfect event to go out with family and friends and have a great time, whether you're outside, and they do have heaters outside, because I've seen on the press conferences, they're in jackets. Kevin O'Connell is, because it is getting a wee bit chilly, and I know this time of year, living in North Dakota, we're in October. You can get freezes at this time of year. So, but it's all available, all ready for you to have a great time at Lake Monster Brewing. Try out the Monster Bash on Saturday and have a great time. That brings us to theme number 3. We are looking at Vikings hosting the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
As usual, we start out with the injury report. Right now, Vikings have put out Ben Ellefson is out. He had a soft tissue injury, is what Kevin called it, this week, and they're holding him out. Andrew Booth has gone from doubtful to questionable. That's interesting to see how he goes. It's on this quad injury. And wide receiver Jalen Naylor, I hardly knew her, is out or is questionable as well. On the Bears side, we have Dane Cruikshank, what a name, is doubtful. Jalen Johnson, cornerback, their best cornerback, is doubtful. And David Montgomery, their running back, is questionable.
Also not on there, but because he'd already been out. But Cody Whitehair, one of their starting offensive linemen, is on injured reserve, so he won't be playing either. And he's a key part of that offensive line.
Mm-hmm. Autor talks about the NFL after that injury must move on from turf. There's a debate there, buddy. There's a debate. But yeah, none of us like seeing injuries. We get off to our offense versus defensive rankings. As usual, we have it broken up to 3 phases. We have the PFF power rankings on top, followed by the Football Outsiders DVOA and the Elias Sports statistics. Those are your statistics that you see on NFL.com, ESPN, CBS. They're the general box score stuff that we've seen for forever that we get. Here, our offense, PFF has this as a power ranking of 8. They're optimistic on the Vikings. Football Outsiders has us as 13th, which dropped just a bit. I think they were 11th last week. 15th in the pass, and 10th on the run. So we're above middle. Now, mind you, everyone, we want to be top 5, if at all possible, in this going into the playoffs. We're not there yet, but we want to get there. Elias Sports, we have 17th in yards, 12th in passing, 22 in rushing. We could use some better rushing, but if we're doing great in passing, I'm cool. Sure. 15 in points, that's the one we really want to get up. We talked about Kirk Cousins in the first theme with our production being low. We're only scoring, 24 points a game or whatever it is. We'd like to get that up into the 35 points a game per range. Would be nice, but we'll see. And we've only taken 7 sacks so far this season. Turnovers, we're ranked 10th with 5. The Bears, their defense by PFF is ranked 31st, as in bad. Football Outsiders looks at them a little bit better. They have them overall 15th. I don't know how, but they do. Don't know how their algorithm works. They have their pass defense being 15th, but like we said, their best cornerback is doubtful for this weekend. And they have 24th against the run. They have them 21st on yards, 4th against passing. So obviously their back end's better than their front end, but we will get into who they played so far. Rushing is 26 points. They're 30th. They're 29th in sacks with 4, and stop that ECAM. They have a turnover differential of 0, and they've had 7 takeaways. The line is the Vikings favored by 7.5 when I did this slide, and the total for the game is 44 points. We flip it. Vikings defense, PFF has this as 22nd, dropping. Football Outsiders has this 26th. 20th against pass, 27th against the run. Our run defense needs to get stouter. We know that. Our pass defense needs to communicate better. I think that's a work in progress. I think they will do that, and they are getting better. Elias has his 27th in yards, 26th in passing, 23rd in rushing, 13 in points, right? The points is the big deal. The defense hasn't allowed anybody to score up until last week in the fourth quarter. That's the big deal. That's kept it in it. They've gotten 7 sacks. We wish that was higher. We are +1 on the differential. And we are 14th with 6 takeaways. Bears offense ranks dead last, 32nd. On PFF, Football Outsiders has them as 29th, dead last in their pass, 11th in the run. They can run, but again, we have one of their players is on the injury report in the running game. Yards, they're 31st. Passing, they're 32nd. Rushing, they're 3rd. That's where they focus. They will run the ball a lot. Our defense against the run is going to be tested this week. Sacks, they've given up 16. That's a lot. So if we need to get well game for our defense and sacks and pressures, tomorrow is that game. In turnovers, they're ranked 23rd. They've given away 7. That's a lot, folks. When we get to special teams, Vikings went up 1. They're 7th. Well, Greg Joseph hit 5 field goals last week. That's going to move you
That'll
up.
do it. That'll do it, yeah.
But our special teams is obviously our best team. Of the 3 phases, they're doing outstanding. Matt Daniels is doing a great job. Has them all psyched. Everybody wants to be on special teams. They have the wonderful ST hats. It's a good thing. I like it. However, the Bears, Football Outside them has them as 8th. So, should be interesting. You know, they get a lot of work. We'll find out. Get a room, you two. And you heard Merlin. Merlin just joined me. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well,
but the big deal here is Justin Fields. Is Justin
Yeah,
Fields wasted in being in Chicago?
well, his play so far the first 2 years would suggest that, David. You showed all the stats there, and I think they show pretty clearly that the Chicago Bears are not a very good team right now. Yet the difference between them and the Vikings is one game. We're 3-1 and they're 2-2, but they aren't as good a team as the Vikings are, even though we have flaws as well. And I don't expect the Bears to beat us tomorrow. And the main reason is because of the guy you've got pictured here, Justin Fields. Quarterback is the most important position in pro sports, you hear. Certainly the most important position in NFL football. And this guy here is completing 50% of his passes, which in today's NFL is horrendous. Uh, he's averaging 100 yards passing per game, which might have been okay in the 1950s, but certainly is not going to fly in 2022 NFL. Um, he's he's also got more interceptions for than passing touchdowns too. So that and the most passes that the Bears have thrown this year was 22. That was last week against the Giants. So they're a heavy right now run dependent team. They depend on Justin Fields on either designed or undesigned scrambles, David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert to tote the rock a lot and get consistent good gains on running plays so they don't have to throw the ball very much. Um, that's how they go. And like you said, that is going to be a test for the Vikings defense because they have struggled to stop the run as well as stop the pass. So it's possible that the Bears could pull off this run a lot, have good success against Ed Donatell's unit, and do just enough to keep the game close and win it late. But I feel
I
that
hope not.
the no, I hope not too. I feel that the Bears, though, overall, they just don't like. That's what I just don't feel that they have the offensive talent, even against our defense, which has been struggling to score enough to beat the Vikings in this game. And you're going to throw up some stats here right now, which kind of
Mhm.
show the issues that the Bears are having in a few areas.
Yes.
Um,
On offense, their 48% of Chicago's possessions have not gained a first down, worst in the league. On defense, the Bears are allowing a high 6.1 yards per carry or per play on first down, worst in the league. The Bears' defense has been fortunate enough to play Trey Lance, Davis Mills, and Daniel Trey Lance and a Monsoon, Davis Mills,
yeah.
and Daniel Jones. Right when they faced Aaron Rodgers, they allowed a 76% completion rate and a 9.4 yards per average. I'm betting tomorrow, it's just a wager, Kirk can come out hot and easily do match what Aaron Rodgers did. Mark that. Those viewers that are watching, and we appreciate you very, very much. Mark that. See if Kirk Cousins matches that 76% completion and 9.4 yards per completion rate tomorrow. Because I suspect we might just see that or better.
And David, no surprise has already been pointed out. Like with the Bears depending so heavily on the running game to provide any kind of offense that they can possibly provide, is that Ed Donatel I feel has got to try to get all his front seven in particular got to be nosy at the line of scrimmage, really seek to shut down the Bears rushing attack, and keep them in the kind of down and distance situations that forces Justin Fields to beat them with their arm, with his arm. If they
Mhm.
can do that, I think they'll have great success. Uh, now that was what they tried to do and should have been trying to do against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They failed miserably at it, but I don't think but it's pretty clear that the Bear Fields and the Bears are not playing offense is not playing at the level that Hurts and the Eagles are right now. And the
No, not
Bears
even
also
close.
don't have AJ Brown to throw to, Devontae Smith to throw to, or Dallas Goddard to throw to. Their best receiving threat right now is Darnell Mooney, and he's got 8 catches in 4 games. 8. So I just don't feel like the Bears can do enough offensively, even with our defense that has been struggling to score enough points to beat the Vikings. And Ed Donatell's unit, say what you want about them, but they give up a lot of yards, but they're not giving up a ton of points yet. And I don't think the Bears are the team that's going to, reverse that trend on that end. And like you said, Fields has been sacked a lot. He's been sacked a lot in his rookie year too, and you kind of wonder if that is impacting him, his confidence. Like, is he shell shocked at this point because he's taking so
It
many
could be.
sacks under so much pressure at this point in time? The guy is a great athlete and he can hurt you with his legs, but he isn't, his running is not offsetting his deficiencies as a passer right now, not even close. So
Well, and it
offensively,
makes you wonder, and this has been brought up before, when a quarterback gets drafted, or any player for that matter gets drafted, how much, how important is the team they go to their development?
yeah,
Obviously, Justin Fields goes to Chicago. Chicago was aging under the previous administration. They didn't play a game that, or develop him like you would want him to. And now that they're in the blow it up mode and to a rebuild, and they're letting him hang out there and not giving him so much help or improvement, if he's just, is he a wasted, has his career been wasted and shot? Some people go, hey, he's from Ohio State. They don't generate quarterbacks. But if you hook up with the right people, that may change. It's going to be interesting to see, not tomorrow, but how the rest of the season for the Bears goes, because I think they have wasted any chance of developing him, or hopefully developing him into a good quarterback, and probably got him too shell shocked. And we'll see what happens. We'll know if he starts to get shell shocked and he starts moving things up and sees ghosts and does all the rest. But we've seen that happen to quarterbacks before because luck of the draw, they went to the wrong team.
yeah.
So, but
Um,
it's interesting to talk about and
for
see.
sure. NC. So that's the offensive side of the thing for the Bears and what the Vikings, I think, need to do defensively to have success.
Mhm.
Offensively, uh, Bears wise, the Bears defense so far in the 4 games, 3 of them they've kept their opponents to 20 points or less. Actually, 20 points in 2 games and 19 in 1 game. Now, so the question is, oh, they sound like they have a pretty stout defense, but they played the 1 game was again in the
The
monsoon
monsoon.
in Chicago against the 49ers with Trey Lance as the starting quarterback and one of his first starts in the NFL. And their other 2 games were against the offensively challenged Texans and the Giants. In the game against that team from Wisconsin, they did not provide much resistance at all to Aaron Rodgers or the Packers. So I think that the Bears' defensive stats, point wise anyway, speak to a team that's just faced some bad offensive teams in their 3 of their 4 games, as opposed to them having a really stout defense. At least
Mhm.
that's how I look at it. And the Vikings are not a bad offense. They're not elite yet, but they're not bad by any stretch.
Right.
And I think that this guy here, you said, if he starts off the game hot,
Flip it up the
uh,
field. Hmm.
with the offensive weapons that we have, I think we can do more than enough offensively to score enough points that the Bears don't really have a shot of hanging with us. And the offense, despite the problems that they've had and we pointed out, have scored 28
Hmm.
points the last 2 weeks. So that's pretty good, even with them not really clicking right now. Um, One of the things that also was noticeable in the Giants game last week, David, is that uh, like the Giants have been gashed by the run a couple of times. They gave up over 200 yards rushing both against that team from Wisconsin and the Giants. So the Vikings really haven't had like a big, huge rushing day. Dalvin Cook or that team yet. This feels like a week where they could really get a big rushing day and he'll have a
Hmm.
big game. And if the Vikings are running well consistently, they're going to have that balance on offense that all offenses like. They're going to be keeping Kirk Cousins out of those 3rd and long situations that we have struggled to convert so far this season. So those would be all good things. And I think the other thing that I noticed in the Giants game was that the Giants, when the Bears could not stop Saquon Barkley from
Right.
getting big runs. They dialed up that this play over and over and over. They'd either hand it off to Barkley, but to the right, but then they used either they tried the zone right play where they'd fake the handoff to Barkley. They'd have the offensive lineman all pushing to the right. The Bears defense bit hard on that almost every time. And then Daniel Jones would
Would come
bootleg,
back.
turn to his left, and he had like a wide open left side of the field. So he either ran for a first down or he threw to a wide open tight end or wide receiver for a first down. And it worked almost every time in that game.
Hmm.
You got to feel I know the Bears have looked at that tape and say we can't let that happen again. But you got to feel that Kevin O'Connell is going to try to do that same sort of deal in this game. Kirk Cousins, of course, isn't the threat to run that Daniel Jones is, but we
No.
also have better offensive weapons than
Yeah, but he
the
could he
Giants
could
have.
he could push the offense all to one
Yes.
side
Yeah.
and then come around and thump and KJ Osborne, Adam Thielen,
Yeah.
whomever, Irv Smith Jr. Boom, there you go, touchdown Vikings. That's what we expect. Uh Our Bears have refused to recognize that NFC North history between teams doesn't allow for mediocre quarterbacks. You are 100% correct, my friend. 100%.
Yeah, but good one by Auteur, and so we'll see if the Vikings can be effective on those kind of bootleg, get the Bears to bite on Dalvin Cook or Alexander Madison on a wide zone run play, or not. But the other thing to kind of also to about this game is that the Bears have, at least in 3 of their 4 games, they have been able to like bring the other team down to their level and play make the game very ugly. And I feel that I think the first half,
Mm-hmm.
if we're expecting like it'd be great if the Vikings come out and like blow them out of the water in the first quarter, get to a 14, 17 point lead, and it's over before we even get to halftime. But I think the first half is going to be a bit of a struggle. It'll be that kind of ugly game. And gradually, as we get into the third and fourth quarter, that's when the Vikings will take control of the game and get that 10-point comfortable victory we've been looking for the past that we haven't got the past previous 3 games. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel like the first half will be a bit clunky. We might be like, how come they're not blowing the Bears out of the water? But we'll gain control with our better talent later, in the third and quarter and early in the fourth quarter to make the game the win, get a victory, and make it a fairly comfortable victory.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
But it may not happen right off the bat. It'd be great if it does, but we might have like a first quarter where it's like 3-3 or 6-3 Bears, and we're all kind of
Oh,
like,
I
what
hope
the hell's
not.
going on? I
Hey,
hope not too.
like I said, like I have posted up here, we're playing at US Bank Stadium. This is a home game tomorrow. The fans should be absolutely rocking. It's gorgeous weather. Go out there and just, make it miserable for the Bears. So,
For sure. And we'll
GMAC,
see.
yes, I want to see somebody. I want to see the Vikings put them away tomorrow. I would love to see a stomping. Get that offensive firing on all cylinders, get up multiple touchdowns, and then everybody enjoying their whiskey or beer or whatever. And then, of course, joining us in the final 2 minutes for the final score. And we can talk about it. But let's see that tomorrow. GMAC, you're calling it, right? They're going to put them away tomorrow. I'm going to quote you tomorrow on the final score. Anyways, that's it for today. So, what are your Thanksgiving plans now that you're down there with your in laws? What do you guys do up there in Canada for Thanksgiving?
Well, today we're having a turkey dinner, even though Thanksgiving Day is on
It's Monday.
Monday. But we're having a turkey dinner today with my wife's siblings, and
Okay.
tomorrow we're having a bigger turkey and all kinds of other type of
Stuff.
meat
Yeah.
products at a bigger family dinner on Sunday, and then
Woo.
Monday, the family's in the car for the 11-hour drive back to Yellowknife. So,
Okay. Well, hey, it sounds great. Feasting, giving Thanksgiving for what we've all had, the great eats. Even though turkey may put you to sleep, but all those other eats are just spectacular. I think it's great. I wish you and your family
thanks, Mary.
all over the next few days, the greatest of Thanksgivings for you guys up there in Canada. We of course have ours in November, and God, that's awesome. But tomorrow we got a game. Our normal time, noon central, Kirk's prime time to play football. He's always good. Caribou. I don't know if you're eating caribou. You may be eating some other wild game, but I don't know about caribou there. But
No caribou. Sorry.
it's good coffee, though.
Mm.
How those, reindeer types make coffee, I have never known, but it's great coffee. He tells you to enjoy. Always good to hear some. Thanks, guys. Hey, I want to thank everybody that's watched today. You guys are great. As always, like, subscribe, ring the bell. It helps. If you're listening on the podcast, rate us there. It helps bring our voices to everyone. We're talking Vikings, whether you agree or not agree, right? Today's deal was a little bit clickbaity about what's wrong with Kirk Cousins, but hey, you can't argue his production is down. Wins are up. QB wins means something, baby. And as GMAC says, Kirktober continues. Traditionally, Kirk is always great in October. We want him to be great in November, in December, in January, and especially February as well. But let's make it happen. Let's hope it happens. All the way from East Los Angeles. And Pablo, thank you for joining us. And enjoy the rest of your great college football Saturday. What do we say, buddy?
We say, Skol Vikings!
Happy Thanksgiving and Skol Vikings! Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a special shout out goes to our partners, the Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found, and to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody.